Hey, I'm Curt,
And I'm Sarah.
and welcome to the latest episode of FP Next, bringing you the insights and entertainment you've been looking for.
Absolutely. And Curt, just to remind our long term listeners or our brand new listeners, we are both editors at Farm Progress, and we love to share all about our great stories and information and insights we find during our day job, our regular work with our magazines. We're bringing our listeners what's next, how they can be more profitable, and of course, just having some great conversations.
Yeah, and if there's anything we can do, that make a good conversation, plus if you're listening on podcast platforms, we encourage you to head over to YouTube channel because this is a video episode, and I think we've got some fun visuals ahead for us.
Absolutely. And of course, we have a fun chat coming up, but I have to tell you about the trend that I've been seeing on TikTok that it kills me every time I see it. So, Curt, I know you've seen the good old bull rings that many ranchers use for controlling or guiding their bulls, right?
Sure. Yep.
Well, now these bull rings are selling out at farm supply stores because a bunch of people on TikTok have started using them as bracelets. And I mean, they're like metal stamping them with like letters and designs, they're stacking them with other jewelry. And I honestly wouldn't be able to tell that they're anything other than a brass bracelet if you didn't know. If you're watching on video, I'm going to show a screenshot that I grabbed off of TikTok to show kind of what I'm talking about. But Curt, what do you think of that?
It reminds me of the episode in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles where John Candy's character was selling those shower curtain rings, and they were out of money. So he was trying to sell them as earrings in the airport to make some cash.
Oh
So
my
that
gosh.
seems like it's kind of repurposing something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's my little current events of what I'm seeing online update out of the way. But let's dive into our episode today with our good friend, who many of us refer to as our local pork expert. But today we're actually talking turkeys and holiday dinner staples with farmer editor Kevin Schulz. Of course, Kevin, you're from Minnesota and cover the state for Farm Progress, but Minnesota also happens to be the top turkey producing state.
That we are. Thank you much for having me, Curt and Sarah. It's great being here, and me without a bull ring in my nose. Thank you.
We'll,
Absolutely.
we'll say that's a good thing, Kevin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first off, Kevin, can you top that turkey gobble we just played? Give us your turkey call.
I do not claim to, nor do I try to. I only gobble turkey. I do not make a gobble sound.
Absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit, Kevin. We're starting off. Tell us about turkey production in Minnesota. It's a Thanksgiving meal staple, and Minnesota produces between 40 and 42 million birds annually, and they're known as the turkey capital of the U.S. and sometimes even the world.
That we are. With Minnesota being the turkey production capital of the world, what do you want first, the good news or the bad news?
We take the good news.
Take the good news. Okay, as Sarah said, yes, Minnesota tops in the country. Latest stats I have from the USDA, Minnesota has 38.5 million turkeys raised, distancing North Carolina, which comes in second with 29 million. So to me, that's quite a big jump between number one and number two. And that's 38.5 million raised in Minnesota. That is a good percentage of the 218 million raised in the U.S. total. So yes, we are home of, yes, as Sarah said, I'm supposedly the hog expert for Farm Progress, but we are the turkey world as well. I don't think we have a museum in Minnesota like we have the Spam Museum down in Austin. But we're most number one for pounds raised, and that is done by 400 farmers in the state of Minnesota, 600 farms total. 65% are family owned, and 90% of our 40 million turkeys raised leave the state, and 15% are exported worldwide. Those number of turkeys have a huge impact on the state's economy. That's 3.5 billion with a B in wages, and 12.3 billion again with a B economic impact that the turkey industry has on the state of Minnesota. So when you sit down on Thanksgiving and have that, you're fighting over the gizzard or the drumstick or the breast, think about how you're impacting the state of Minnesota impact or the economic impact. And as I mentioned, there are, Minnesota is only one of the top producing turkey states in the country. Birds are raised across the country, so it's big business where no matter where you go.
So when we sit down for our holiday meals and enjoy that turkey, we better thank those farmers from Minnesota and across the country that are raising it, and we think a little bit about them, as we enjoy that food, that great holiday food. Poultry industry is big here in Nebraska too, as it is in so many of our states that we cover. But boy, the last 2 or 3 years, highly pathogenic avian influenza, that dreaded bird flu, has sure decimated flocks here in Nebraska, all across the country. And so, how has that impacted the poultry farms, in particular in Minnesota, Kevin?
Well, when I started, I asked, do you want the good news or the bad news? And the bad news, I thought you would ask for that first. Let's get that out of the way, then we can just talk the good news. But yeah, just high path avian influenza is hitting Minnesota hard. This time of year, it makes sense because it's usually brought in by the migratory birds. Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. We have, we're a nesting spot for birds coming up from the south. Now they're heading their way back south. So just in the last week, we've had about 160,000 birds that had to be put down because of high path, 2 confirmed cases. In October alone, we have had 627 turkeys confirmed to have high path avian influenza. And those are in 12, those were from 12 flocks in the state. So it's high path is everywhere, and it's a real detriment because these birds have to be put down. They have to be depopulated, and that's a big chunk of the production.
Absolutely. I know my first kind of experience with high path was back when I was a 4-H'er, and I was big into poultry showing. The chickens, not the turkeys, not the geese. I had a ton of chickens I was brought to the fair, and one of my last years in 4-H, we were not able to bring chickens to the fair, of course, because of the high path situation. And that was my one and only time I actually showed pigs, because my dad told me if I could not bring chickens to the fair, he would let me get pigs. And that was such a grand old time. And I look back on those pictures and I was like, you could really tell that I had no idea what I was doing showing these pigs that were in the market class, but they were pretty small. But luckily, I was the one who brought pigs, so I still got the grand champion and got to be in the round robin. But high path affects a lot of other animal species aside from the poultry industry. So Kevin, as our pig expert, pigs are, of course, all things biosecurity. Talk a little bit about the biosecurity for protecting all animal species from high path.
Basically, it's that B word right there, biosecurity. You want, I hate to say it, it used to be, let's open up the farms, let's let, the outside public, because they don't know what goes on in farms. We've lost that, urban-rural connection, that, people are mystified by what goes on the farm. And because of that, we get, a lot of misinformation going out. Well, all of a sudden we start locking up our farms. They think we're hiding something. Well, no, we're not. Actually, yes, we are hiding something. We're hiding our safe herds and flocks. We have to really be strict on our biosecurity to, keep out predators of all kinds, human or four-legged, or in this case, the migratory birds that are impacting the poultry, the chicken and the turkey farms. It's not just turkeys that are being hit. It's all, and there are, it's hitting waterfowl too. So it's just, we need to really lock the doors and keep everything out so that the animals that we are under our care remain safe. And there are various methods of doing the protection, protecting your birds. I did a story earlier this year where a turkey grower puts the lasers, and that's, I don't know if that's real commonplace yet, but I see stories of more and more producers who are putting these lasers. It looks very Star Wars-ish, like where they're shooting rays of beams out at evening over the night. So it's supposed to be a deterrent to keep the wild waterfowl, the migratory birds, away from your poultry barns. Jury is still out if that's really effective, but it's, the producer I talked to, he said this was my last hope. So let's hope it's working for him.
Yeah, and the influenza also is hitting dairy operations. We just had our first one in Nebraska confirmed a couple of months ago, and so it's always a concern for everyone. But also, it seems like sanitation is kind of the key too, because if you don't have like a lot of spilled grain laying around the farm, then you don't attract birds, migratory birds or others that may be carrying it around too. So that seems to also be an important thing that that helps out. Kevin, in our neck of the woods, we have a backyard poultry flock, kind of like the 4-H flock for you, Sarah, and a few ducks, a few chickens, and we get some eggs, and about half, I guess, of the avian influenza flocks that have been confirmed positive in Nebraska end up being backyard commercial flock, not commercial flocks, but backyard flocks like ours, those really small ones. But is that kind of the same way in Minnesota, where a lot of farmers used to not have chickens, and now I swore we'd never have chickens again because I always had to clean out the hog barn or the chicken barns when I was young. But lo and behold, that kind of got changed, and we have them again. But a lot of farmers are kind of in that boat. Is it kind of a mix of both?
It's just like us in the news industry. The bad news, the bigger news is what grabs the headlines. So we're seeing, I was looking just this morning at the dashboard of infections in the state of Minnesota, and most of them are the turkey flocks. There are some chicken flocks, and then few, I forget how they categorized it, non-commercial. So it's still the bigger production poultry are the bigger concern, and the what we were seeing more of.
Absolutely. And of course, when we're talking all these things turkeys, we got to get back to some fun news here. And so one of my favorite things that I see every year involving turkeys is the presidential turkey pardon. And that has not been announced yet this year. But last year was a couple turkeys from Minnesota. I believe their names are Peach and Blossom, who got to go all the way to the White House and travel out there, meet the president, and then, of course, be pardoned. And I believe they go to a sanctuary after, when they're, spared from their Thanksgiving fate.
Yeah, those turkeys, if I understand right, came from the Zimmerman farm by Northfield, Minnesota. A great opportunity to promote Minnesota turkey production on the national stage. It's, depending what side of the aisle you're on, or just maybe your whole thought on politics, what do we need 2 more turkeys coming to Washington, D.C.? But I'll just leave it at that.
And I think, like, when that turkey's selected, the turkey must think, oh, shoot, this is going to be a bad deal. But then they end up getting pardoned, and an awful lot of other ones end up on our dinner table. So I'm not so sure it's such a bad draw anyway. When we talk a little bit about turkey for Thanksgiving, we have to talk about ham, because that's one of our family's favorite staples. Yes, we have turkey, but we also like our ham. So how, I've read a column that you wrote recently that profitability for hog farmers is looking up a little bit better. Gosh, and they sure deserve that, because things have been bad for a while. Can you tell us, what is the outlook on the profit side in the swine business, over coming into winter?
Yeah, it's like you said, we finally turned the corner, and it much smarter people than myself on the economic side of it. It's, yes, we're still having the high, if you're selling grain, you want it to be higher. The prices for the corn and soybeans. If you're feeding livestock, you want it to be lower. So, there is that trade-off, but there is opportunity now, and that can, turn on a dime real quick. But at the moment, it's the time. There is profitability in the near future for U.S. hog producers.
See, you said you had a lot of good news and bad news to share today, Kevin, but I've heard more good news than bad news. That's always exciting. And Kevin, we did talk about, I told you loosely that we have a game, and now we're going to play our game. And of course, if you're listening on video, or listening and not on video, come over to YouTube so you can kind of see We're going to do thumbs up and thumbs down because we're talking about some holiday meal classics, whether it's Thanksgiving, Christmas, all of our winter holidays coming up. We're going to start with, of course, turkey. Thumbs up or thumbs down to turkey? We all got a thumbs up. Perfect. I know my dad makes a mean smoked turkey, and that is always our go-to. And then we're going to keep cooking down our list here. How about ham? I feel like this is going to be a theme. We're going to like a lot of thumbs up in these. Okay. How about beef? So prime rib, pot roast. What do you feel about beef?
Now, are you talking for Thanksgiving or just in general?
I think we're going to stick to holiday meals.
I mean, I'm indifferent.
You're
I
different.
like it, but we don't usually have it. So
Same.
We are a prime rib family for Christmas. So I got to have the beef up there. And then how about lamb? Yeah. I do love lamb, but for holidays, it's got to be the classics for me.
I feel like
personally.
lamb is more of an Easter thing. You know, that's like leg of lamb seems like, you know, that's a little bit more Easter, but not so much for Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to start getting into some side dishes here. Mashed potatoes and gravy. Awesome. This trend is really coming true that I said we were probably going to see earlier. How about stuffing? This is the follow-up question for stuffing is, do you like the from a box stuffing or the homemade stuffing?
Homemade.
Either or.
My mother-in-law always makes a stuffing, so it's always good.
I know the stuffing my grandma used to make was chicken gizzards, onions, potatoes, and like bread soaked in gizzard juices. Is that like a classic stuffing that a lot of people had? So we always had that on our table, and we always had the stovetop because I could not eat the chicken gizzards, and there was a few other members in our family who couldn't do the chicken gizzards.
My kids still prefer stovetop, but that's just because they don't like what they don't know.
It's fair, but it's nostalgic too, if that's like what you grew up having. But how about cranberry sauce?
I sprained my thumb. Sorry.
Sprained your thumb. Okay, and then we got sweet potatoes with another follow-up question is, do you guys do savory or sweet potatoes? Like, do you have the marshmallows or is it like roasted savory?
Savory here.
Marshmallows. We are a savory sweet potato family.
Mm-hmm.
But how about green beans or kind of other like the roasted vegetables? Green bean casserole even.
Mm.
We are not vegetable people here. Okay.
I like green beans. It's
fair. How about
With
corn with bacon? Bacon makes everything better, right, Kevin? Always
Right.
the pork.
Always.
Exactly.
Everything's better.
Yeah. And then how about cornbread or classic rolls?
Cornbread for me.
We do classic rolls, but my wife makes I'm not sure what you call it, a corn dish, which has cornbread, cream of corn, and some other ingredients, but it has become a staple in our family.
We always call it like corn casserole, and we also have that, and that's always a good one. I know in past years, I've been into really baking sourdough, and last year I actually baked a bunch of individual sourdough rolls that looked like mini turkeys, and I'll see if I can find a picture to put in here. They did not end up actually looking like turkeys. They did not look good, but they tasted good, so that's all that matters. Then how about macaroni and cheese?
We've had that, but
I like it, but not for a side dish at Thanksgiving.
You can have mac and cheese anytime, right? So.
Right.
Fair. And then our final one we have for you guys that we're going to talk about is pies and what flavor of pie. I know I'm out on pies. I'm not a pie person.
Got to have pumpkin pie one time a year. It's got to be at Thanksgiving. And just give me a sliver with lots of whipped cream.
So you can't taste the pie. It's all about the
Exactly.
whipped cream.
My answer on flavor of pie is yes. Pretty much any type is good, but pumpkin pie for Thanksgiving is a must. Yes. Apple pie too, I think. So, yeah, but any pie will be good for me.
Awesome. I know there's always a ton of different traditions and holiday foods. And so if we missed your favorite holiday food, please make sure you tell us in the comments on YouTube or send us an email with your favorite holiday meal. I know there's a lot of we also make lefse because we're like the Norwegian, the Irish, the German. And I'm sure there's a lot of other cultural foods. I don't know, Kevin, are you into like the lutefisk or things like that at your family?
Oh, God, no. I don't like white Jell-O. Lefse, yes. Lutefisk, no.
I don't think you'd be too hard pressed to find too many people who are not as big of a fan of as lutefisk as some are. I know I was at a field day and having a whole conversation about lutefisk and kind of the entire, like the very traditional foods. And we're not here hating on anybody's, we're not yucking anybody's yum over here. But, you know, there's things that are for us and things that are not for us. And I think we could keep chatting about holiday favorites and foods for a lot longer. But Curt, I think this episode's making me hungry now because now I'm like, I haven't had lunch yet today as we're recording. So I might have to be doing that. And I think that means I should get a jump on our holiday planning. And I think it's also about time to wrap up this episode of FP Next. So Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today. We will be looking if we get some turkeys from Minnesota this year. I know Jenny O store in Wilmer, Minnesota will let you track which farm your turkey came from. And so those links we talked about will be in the episode description.
Could I add one more item, fun stuff on when we were talking about the foods? Turkey was the first meal served on the moon. When Neil Armstrong and Edwin Aldrin sat down for their first meal on the moon, their foil food packets contained roasted turkey and all the trimmings. I'm sure wherever you're sitting down this Thanksgiving, you will have a much better presentation than what they had. But still probably tasted pretty good to those guys.
And you know, that dehydrated or preserved turkey from whatever year that would have been, the, you know, all those years ago, would probably still exist if you had it today because it's preserved so well. But yeah, Kevin, thanks for joining us today. And we wish you and your family a very happy holiday. And we want to let our listeners know that we want to hear from you. Comment on your favorite holiday meal. And, you know, if you heard something on today's podcast that kind of tripped your trigger, let us know, please. And especially if you're on YouTube or those podcast platforms, drop us a line at the links below. And we love to hear from listeners about anything and everything agriculture.
Absolutely. And of course, I know I love when we get emails, comments from our listeners, and maybe we'll have to start sharing some of those comments and thoughts on our topics going forward. Don't forget to follow along with FP Next and all of the best agriculture insights from Farm Progress, and check out the digital edition of your regional publication at farmprogress.com.
A special thank you, as always, goes out to our digital production and marketing team members who put in a lot of work with us. And if you want to be sure not to miss any top stories, sign up for our Farm Progress text blasts.
Absolutely. And you can sign up for those text alerts by texting FARM, FARM, to 20505. On top of sharing your thoughts on today's episode, we would love it if you would leave us a review on whichever platform you listen on. Yes, we ask for your reviews every single episode, but those reviews really help others in the ag industry find us and help grow our community more and more.
And Sarah, we don't want 5 turkeys. We want 5 stars. So let's get that straight right away.
Absolutely. And remember, if it's agriculture, your friends at Farm Progress have you covered. Here's wishing you high yields and good weather. We'll see you next time.